Hey there! Today we are racking this. This was the traditional mead that I want to turn into a Juniper Elderflower Mead. So it's been sitting for a very long time because of this right here, all this foamy schmoomy. It's very tricky because I'm like, is this still fermenting? Is this, I mean, by now that's impossible. This can't be fermenting anymore. There's no way. So it's got to be CO2. I discovered this this issue with some other mead that I had hanging around that also had foam on it. The Shushen. I think it's CO2. It can't be doing anything else. I'm gonna pop this open. I took a gravity reading on June 22nd and it was at 1.008, which would put this at just under 14%. It's like a not quite 13.5. So I have a feeling this is gonna need more sweetening. If I remember correctly, I said that Juniper Elderflower needed to be a little bit sweeter. I guess like a semi-sweet. So we're gonna take a reading, we're gonna see where it's at, we're gonna rack it, and I wanna make sure that this is done fermenting 100% before adding the Juniper and Elderflower. It's very important that those are added into secondary. The process of fermentation messes with things. God, this looks so gross. Look at all this lovely mold growing. This is fine, by the way. That is another reason why it's great to have an airlock. For some reason, right now, summer, mold has been growing in my airlocks. It's an issue I didn't deal with in the winter time, just the summertime. It's very humid where I live. Let's just get to it, shall we? This was started April 28th. And it is now July 28th, so it's been sitting for 3 months. Oh my God. I let this sit for 3 months? It's clear, of course, it should be clear. It's been sitting for 3 whole months, waiting. Because I was confused. I was like, why is this still fermenting? It's not. I'm just gonna take a reading, see how flippin' dry this is. Oh my God, is it done? It's at 1.04 at this point. Wow, I think it's done. Surprise, surprise. We might end up adding Juniper and Elderflower today after all. Wow, I was not expecting that, to be honest. Yeah, so I used D47, but this ended at under 14%. You know, yeast is very confusing. 2 of my other meads, if you may not have watched those videos, the Shushen and the Strawberry, I used D47 in both of those. And they have far exceeded 14%. 14 is supposed to be the cap for this mead, or this yeast rather. So what that means is the yeast has a tolerance of alcohol they can swim around in before it's like, it just dies off. And the Strawberry, I think is at like 16%, and the Shushen is at 15. This being under 14 is really weird to me because of those. Really, this is normal. This is probably more of what it should be. I'm gonna rack this. I'm gonna move this into here, and I'm gonna go get my juniper berries and my elderflower. I needed a lime. Maybe I'll just use a lemon. I bought a lime. I bought 2 limes now, anticipating filming this and like getting this done, and they've both died. So I might just use a lemon instead because it's what I have. Anyway, I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and racked this. So we've got some things that we need to add to this mead. First, I'm gonna taste it and see what the sweetness level is like. I know it's low, but it's actually already pretty sweet. I'm just gonna add the rest of this honey in here. It's just a clover honey, local, super simple. The recipe calls for a lime, however, mine is dead. I don't have a lime, but I do have a perfectly good lemon. I love lemons, so I don't really care. I'm not gonna worry about going and getting a lime. I'm gonna stir that up and degas at the same time. That's good. I also realized I put orange in this in the beginning. So I kind of recently learned, honestly, C.S. Bruce did a video about this, and in one of my mead books that I have, you're technically not supposed to add citrus in the beginning of a brew. Something about the malic acid and how fermentation messes with it. Not malic, but the acids that are present in citrus fruits. I don't know, the fermentation does something to it. So technically you should add all acidic fruit into secondary when fermentation is over. So I'm gonna add lemon peel, and then I'm gonna add juniper berries and elderflowers. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about those and how awesome they are. Everything here's been sanitized, of course, just as usual. But I'm gonna do this real quick and then we'll move on. Now, it doesn't say how much lime or lemon zest to put in. Just gonna add some. Because this recipe, I got this idea from an old, it was a 1930s Polish, like metheglin book. There weren't any amounts listed. It was just the ingredients. So I'm kind of just guessing. Right now. I don't want this to be like over the top citrusy, so I'm gonna put half. I kind of already taste like a citrus in this meat. Oh my God. Honestly though, I freaking love me some lemons. So if you are a lemon lover, you know, why not? We'll see how this turns out. I'm just gonna cut a couple chunks to put in here. Some large chunks of zest. Alrighty then. As you know, I like to talk a little bit about, some other uses of things, history and stuff like that. So if you don't care about any of that, I'll have listed here the timestamp to when I just get to adding this stuff into the mead. But if you like learning about this kind of stuff, then stick around and just listen to my words. Juniper Elderflower Mead is a metheglin, and metheglin just means that you put spices in it. Metheglin is a traditional way of making mead. Honestly, the plain like honey wine kind of, it didn't really exist a whole lot. Most people would brew with spices and herbs and things added in, and I don't think they used fruit very often, to be honest, because most old recipes is like spice. Juniper berries, one of the other names that they're called is really cool. It's the bows of the supernatural. So juniper berries are actually considered a spice as well, not like a berry. And most often people will use them in cooking. I personally have never used juniper berries for anything ever. And I'm definitely not using like most of this bag for the mead, so I kind of want to try it out. I think typically it's used seasoning meats in particular. It's considered an herbal bitter, and it's supposed to, or it's thought to, help aid in digestion. So here's some random historical facts. Pretty cool. I just love this stuff. So in ancient Greece, the athletes would use juniper berries to increase stamina, and I'm not entirely sure how they did that, but they did. The ancient Romans, often this was used to substitute for pepper. And in ancient Egypt, they would use it to help embalm the dead. In traditional Chinese medicine, right? This stuff's just all over the world. It's freaking cool. Juniper berries have been used for centuries as a kidney stimulant to help flush out toxins. It's also been used as just like a general antibiotic, as well as a digestive stimulant. So there we are with the digestive stuff again. There must really be something to it as far as that aspect goes. And Native Americans, they would carry the berries on them. Its magical use is for protection. So if you're into magical things, as I am, you can hang on to some of these in a pouch or whatever and utilize some of that energy. And now we're gonna talk a little bit about elderflowers. Woo. So elderflowers are used in traditional medicine all over the world. Again, something that just grows everywhere and has been used for centuries. It's been used for very similar things all over too. So apparently it has anti-inflammatory properties as well as antiseptic. It's just like a really good medicinal kind of herb. It's also very high in bioflavonoids, which are known to be anti-inflammatory. Native Americans also used this to help treat fevers. As far as its magical use goes, it's also very widely used as a protection kind of thing as well. All right, now that we got all that cool stuff out of the way, chatted up about, you feel like you learned something? Because I did when I researched all that. As far as how much of this to put into the mead, I had a hard time finding just like a solid recipe necessarily. Not a lot of people use juniper berries in mead. They're traditionally used in gin. So this is gonna be sort of like an elderflower, honey, lemon gin kind of drink. I'm really interested to see how this turns out. So the first time I saw anything about Juniper, I found a YouTube video. I don't know, I just like looked it up. And I don't remember the channel's name, but this guy was like, yeah, for a gallon of mead, I use like 30 juniper berries. I think if you just look up Juniper mead on YouTube, you'll find him, but he uses exactly 30 berries. Now, this is something that can be super overpowering if you're not careful. I looked online just to do a little bit more research, and someone was like, absolutely ooh, I need to sanitize that. Anyway, they were like, absolutely do not use more than a half an ounce. It's more than 30. They weren't very strong smelling. It's like very, very mild, honestly. For elderflower, I also heard that this is pretty powerful stuff as well. So I'm going to use an ounce of this. This bag is 4 ounces. I don't know how to describe it. It reminds me of soup. Like a vegetable soup, like tomato. Green. It smells like green. I don't know. So this is an ounce. It's almost a full cup. That legit smells so nice. Isn't this beautiful? What I will have to do though when I rack this is probably use a muslin bag, like on the other end of the tube, to catch a lot of the flower stuff. You can hear my strawberry mead bubbling. It should be done fermenting, so I think it's just more CO2 coming out. These ingredients are pretty potent. I will probably check this in a couple of days and taste test it and see how it's going. I may only leave it in here for a week, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. Yeah, we will see.